And welcome to the North Side. It's good to have you here tonight. When we were discussing how to have this meeting, we talked about Zoom, we talked about live streaming it, and then we thought, you know what, let's just try it live and see what happens. So we are going to record it for folks that do want to view it, that weren't able to come tonight or chose not to come. And so my name is Bruce Volstead. I'm on staff with Urban Impact Foundation. This is Peter Ward. He's Director of Development. And Paulson is right behind the camera, and he's the Manager of Marketing. And we are the marathon team for 2021 for Urban Impact. So we are taking this on and excited in a very uncertain time, obviously, not knowing what will happen in May, but we are going to move forward and trust the process, and then if it changes, we'll make adjustments accordingly. So before we go on, let me just pray, and then we'll go from there. Thank you, Father, for this time and this day. Thank you for these folks that have come tonight. We just pray for a good meeting, pray for clarity and quietness of heart, and that your name will be glorified. Amen. One of the reasons for this meeting was to give you an opportunity, especially new folks, to get to know about Urban Impact. As well as to get to know our management team or our leadership team as part of the marathon. So no better way to find out about Urban Impact than to have the founder and president, Pastor Ed Glover, who's here with us, and he's just going to come up and tell us about Urban Impact, but also tell us why it's important that we run for Urban Impact.
Very good, thanks, Bruce. Yeah. Hey, I know Chris. I thank Chris for being here, and I got some of the guys I work out with. We got all you guys here. It's really exciting. Again, my name's Ed, and we started Urban Impact Foundation years ago. Tammy and I, my wife and I, moved onto the North Side back in 1987, so it's a long time ago, and we moved into a street where 4 out of 5 homes were boarded up and unoccupied because that was the neighborhood that was surrounded this particular church. So we moved in to make a difference, and after 6 years into the ministry, I walked out of my house and my car was stolen for the 3rd time. And I remember looking down the street and saying, you know, can we make any kind of a difference here? And that's when the Lord gave me this thought: how do you eat an elephant? And I responded, 1 bite at a time. And the Lord took my mind and helped me to see if I could impact 1 person, then 1 family, then 1 block, we could transform the community. And that's when Urban Impact Foundation was born. Now, fast forward 25 years later to this year, now there's no more homes boarded up in my neighborhood in this area, and we're serving thousands upon thousands of lives here on the North Side. Just over COVID, we served over 130,000 items of food and items of need on the North Side, just over these months. But what we normally do is we do sports, education, arts, and options. Options is helping kids transition out of high school into life, helping them to go to a college, go to a trade school, get a job, go in the military or the ministry. And I'm very thankful to tell you that any student that gets involved with Urban Impact's options program, 100% of them graduate from high school, and 97% of them transition onto one of those 5 what we call buses. In other words, everybody on the North Side, if you don't have a car, you're grabbing a bus. So we help kids when they're very early. You're going to get on a bus after high school, and you're either going to go to a college or a trade school or something. So decide what bus you're going to get on. We're going to get you on the right seat on that bus and get you where we believe that God has you to be. So we've been doing that for many, many years. And I also want you to know that normally we serve about 45,000 meals to kids during the year normally. And we have summer program, we have school year programming, and we have in-school and outside of school program. We reach about 2,300 children and youth on the North Side before COVID. But we also run a thing called Man Up Pittsburgh. Man Up Pittsburgh is impacting men and impacting the fatherless. So we do that in Pittsburgh. We also do that in Charlotte. We have a training center that we're developed and we continue to develop. We're training people because we've won some national awards for what we've done, transforming lives in a community. So we're training people how to do that, not only here in Pittsburgh, but we're hope to send them in different places in different cities around the country. And we've even sent some people in different parts of the world. So it's really exciting. It's a really great time to be part of Urban Impact. But folks, there's a lot of need right now, as you know. We have our children, all of the children here on the north side are not going to school right now. So we had to do learning labs. So we're doing learning labs right now, helping kids to be able to read and write and so on and do their work. Could you imagine being a second grader and you're sitting behind a screen for 6 hours? That's just not going to happen. And a lot of our parents are working moms. They got 1 or 2 jobs, and they're gone out of the house. So if you have 2 or 3 kids, who's going to watch those kids, right? Who's going to help the little guy behind the screen? So Urban Impact Foundation, we regrouped, and we're grabbing these kids and we're putting them in learning labs. Guys, that's a lot of money to do that. We've basically replaced the schools. It's $2,000 a kid. And we didn't have the money. We're doing everything we normally have done. Then we added on COVID and we've added on learning labs. You're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. So right now when you run, you've got to understand that you're running to provide holistic opportunities for kids who have little to no options. I mean, you're providing education, you're providing food, you're providing an opportunity for a kid to find a career and a job, as well as to get to know who God is and how God created them for a purpose. Amen? So that's kind of what we're all about, and we're doing that, and we've been doing that now for 25 years. I've been on the north side almost 35 years. I was a pastor at Allegheny Soundlights Church, there's a church behind us, who owns this building. And then after that, that's when we started Urban Impact. So those of you that are watching this by screen, I just want to really encourage you to go get some of your friends, come join Chris and these guys, and let's run for a purpose. Let's make a difference, honestly, in a kid's life. Hope you'll come and join us. I really mean that. And to all the rest of you, thanks for being here. You've encouraged my heart. My people, I've got 35 people like me. We have to raise our support. You have to understand that. Every one of these people in here, this guy, myself, we raise our support. Think about it. How is the kids and the families going to pay for us? So we had to go to people like you that would open up their hearts to us and open up their businesses and everything else to kind of open up to support us. And we've been able to do that. A requirement at Urban Impact Foundation is you have to live on the north side. You have to be where your feet are. And you have to be able to impact the people in the community. And what we found, when you're living in the community, the good things of that community are part of you. And the hard things that are part of that community are hard for you. And guess what? We'll lock arms together, we'll make a difference on the north side. So I want to thank you for that. And that's another reason why you're running. You're running so that you can support the leadership that's here on the north side, in schools, outside of schools, providing opportunities for kids and families here on the north side. And most of all, the greatest thing that we do, in my opinion, is we do Jesus. We provide an opportunity for kids and families and people to know that they have hope, that there's a reason to get up in the morning, that there is a God who loves them, cares for them, and created them for a purpose. And I'll tell you what, guys, when you don't have much hope, you don't have much of a future, it's good to know this isn't all there is. There is a God who sees you and knows you and loves you. And that's what we're doing together. So with that being said, I'll answer any kind of questions that you have really quickly. If you have some questions, I can help you with that. If not, I'll just step down and these boys will take over and help you understand why you're here. Anybody?
How do you find the children that you impact? How do they come to you?
People ask that question. It's a word of mouth. It really is. It's been over the years. Your name?
Dan.
Dan. Over the years, when I first got here, and I mean, nobody knew who I was, right? So we started building relationships. And I'll tell you the story really quick. He asked the question, how do we get these kids? How do they know we're here? It's really a word of mouth, but what we did in the old days, because when you first get here, a lot of the people don't look like me. When I moved in, they didn't look like me. So when I went out into the community...
They weren't young.
Yeah, they weren't young, that's right. And so, I was kind of like suspect, like, who is this guy? And I had to earn the right to be heard. But I'll never forget, after being here for years, working the neighborhood and the community, there was a young lady that went to a baseball, right over here, right out here. Went to a baseball field. I had the Pittsburgh Pirates, back when they were good, coming over in 1992. And they were putting on a baseball clinic. And I had we were trying to get kids to come to that baseball clinic, meet all the Pirates. So I went with these tickets in my hand. And nobody, no, not one kid would talk to me. Finally, this young lady stands up, and she was from the community. And she said, Pastor Ed, what are you trying to do? I said, well, I'm trying to invite all these little leaguers to come to hear the Pirates, and so that they can learn and be helped. And she stands up and she says, he's okay. Next thing you know, I had 150 kids all around me, man. I'm handing this stuff out. What I learned that day, you got to be around a long time to earn the right to be heard. And she was one of the gatekeepers, and she opened the door, and I was able to do what I do. Today, we at Urban Impact Foundation have been here so long and have not gone away that people do trust us, and we are somewhat of the gatekeepers on the north side. So people know who we are. We're in the schools, outside the schools. They hear about what we're doing. To be honest, we have waiting lists for some of our programs. Huge waiting lists. And that's another reason why you want to run. Because the reason why we can't get the kids into our programs isn't because we don't want them. It's because we don't have enough money to supply what they really need. So that's another reason. You can think about the kid standing on the outside. This is true. A lot of times I'll sit there and I'll look at a window and I'll just see in my mind kids' faces just smashed up to that window trying to get in and not being able to get in. It really motivates me to say, you know, why I get up in the morning. I want those kids to be in this room with everybody else. So I hope you'll think about that image when you're on that 15th mile and you're about ready to suck wind out of your lungs. You can't go any further. By the way, I don't run anymore. I'm sorry. I will pray for you, and I'll be there to cheer you on. I'll guarantee you, we have a huge, huge party out there, right out in the street. When you come running by, we'll be there to cheer you on. All right? Good question. Anybody else got any other questions? Well, great. If you got a question, get a hold of Bruce, and he'll talk to you about it, okay? Thanks for being here, guys, really. I mean, Chris, I want to thank you.
Bruce, can I interrupt?
Oh, please.
Who's Audrey? Audrey, yes, I want to meet you, and I want to say thank you to you for coming, too, as well. There are great things about you. Amen.
Thanks, Pastor Ed. You know, you mentioned the learning labs. So I'm 61 years old. Okay, I'm in 2 days a week. I'm in front of 4 third-grade girls for 8 hours a day.
God bless
And I
you.
never thought I'd be on that side of the classroom looking at them, but it's, yeah, I mean, these are third-grade girls. They're 8, 9 years old, and it's hard for us to keep going for those 8 hours, let alone them, but what a blessing, and they're so much fun. But yeah, just thankful that we can help those parents out like that. Most of you, I think, if not all of you, have participated in the marathon in some form or another, and I'm assuming most of you have probably run the charity runs. We weren't going to spend a lot of time, very little time, in the nuts and bolts of the registration process or the fundraising process and all that. In this meeting, that's something that as people register and we move on in the process, folks can, we can help people with that. But I did want to give you, you know, this will be, 2020 would have been our 10th year running as an organization in the Pittsburgh weekends, the marathon weekend, not just the marathon. And I think the high numbers, maybe at some point 80 some runners, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, more?
We had, I think, 115 one year.
Oh, 150. I've just been on the marathon committee since COVID hit. And so some of the history I don't know. So 115 this year, we had 70 registered for the marathon until it shut down. But then we actually had 40 that went through, and Jessica was one of them, that went through the virtual options and did that. So we were very thankful because, again, most of them, if not all of them, had raised some money through the process even before it was shut down, but a number of them went through it after the process. So very, very thankful for that. So we do have a bit of a history, but in some of the changeover that COVID brought on staff-wise and all that, we saw an opportunity to, okay, let's rethink this a little bit. Let's see what we can do differently. And then we found out through Pastor Ed about Chris, and he told us about Audrey, who we're going to hear from here in a few minutes, but very thankful for that. We've had a leadership team as part of this marathon team over the last X number of years. We have a gentleman, Anthony Brock, who actually lives in Washington, PA, and is our biggest fundraiser, I believe. He puts together a relay team, but really his focus, as he told us in a meeting a few weeks ago, his focus has never been on recruiting runners. It's always been about raising money. So he wasn't able to get up here tonight this early in the evening, but Anthony's involved with us. There's a couple, Mark and Bethany Skosnick. They are not able to come tonight, but they just live actually right around the corner here. And they have 2 babies now, so I'm not sure how much Bethany will be involved. But Mark very much involved with us and also with the running. And we also have Alyssa Drew, and Alyssa's right here. All of you have done, I'm assuming, and maybe I shouldn't assume, all of you have run as a charity runner, right? Correct? Anybody not do that before? You haven't? Okay, sorry guys. Didn't want to assume that. Obviously, if you run as a charity runner, and when you leave, there's a little form in the back that just kind of gives you, I will explain this part, just for you guys, because I made a wrong assumption, and for that I apologize. You can run for free in the marathon, if you're not aware of that. So you pay a registration fee, and then as a charity runner, there is a minimum that you're not required to raise, but that they set these minimum amounts to raise as part of the charity run. And if you do, then they just, if you get the minimum, they'll just reimburse you your registration fee. And so that's an extra, I think, that they've had for a while. So my understanding is the registration process is really straightforward, really simple, and it's just, you just follow the charity buttons as you go down through the process, and you get to set up your own page where people can go and give money to you directly through there, all these things. So, and we also have, for registration process, we do have it on our website, and it's on here how you can go in and just do the registration process through our website as opposed to trying to figure out the marathon process. All right, so that's really all I want to talk about at this point about that process. We've had this discussion before tonight, and we had it even before, when Audrey first came in. It was, we think a lot of people are going to hold off, right? Especially runners that Audrey knows and probably Chris knows, waiting to see what happens here in the next few months when it comes to the marathon and what happens. So again, as I mentioned at the beginning, we're just going to keep walking forward, moving forward, recruiting folks, and then seeing what they decide at some point, if they even go down that road. So, but going back to Alyssa, especially since we have 3 folks here that have never run as a charity runner, if you can just give them some of the things that you've done over the years to fundraise. I think you have to get, we have our families, right? We have our friends, we have Facebook, but at some point that can dry up pretty quickly. So sometimes if you really want to, you can get really creative, and Alyssa has done that. So I just asked her to share some of that with us.
There's a few things that I have kind of stuck with over the last several years, but with Christmas coming up, and then my birthday is right after that. One of the things that I found, I don't need another sweater. There's not a lot that I need, and so this is a great opportunity to ask people to give you a Christmas gift of a donation to Urban Impact. It's been one of the greatest ways, actually, that I've done some of my fundraising. Not only is it a gift to you, but it's a gift that makes a difference even beyond you. A lot of the fundraising that I did ended up being at restaurants or different establishments like that. In fact, sometimes I would arrange for to meet after a run, and everyone would stay to have dinner or whatever, and then a portion of the proceeds from that evening would go gets mailed to Urban Impact, and you can count towards your fundraising. You just have to let them know, the person that the fundraising goes to. So I've done that at Uno and Permante's. There's actually a lot of different restaurants out there who are, well, at least pre-COVID, were willing to do that. And so, and even if they're not, I'd encourage you, if you know someone there, or it's just an establishment that you really like, sometimes they'll work with you. Maybe they've never done a fundraiser before, but lots of times they're willing to work with you to figure something out. I know in the past we did an event. It was at something that's kind of like a Dave and Buster's sort of thing. I think they also had bowling and different sorts of arcade games, and we were able to set up a day where a certain time period, anything that was, any purchases or play that was done during that time would count towards urban impact fundraising. So I just encourage you to be creative. I know people have done things like cleaning services and advertising that they're fundraising for urban impact, and will do 100% of the proceeds from their cleaning service will go to it. So when people hear about your creative ideas, it makes them interested. It gets them kind of excited about it as well. So I just encourage you to be creative and share your ideas with others too, because lots of times, if something works for one person, it might work well for another. I think it was maybe 2 years ago, I tried the Facebook fundraiser, and for whatever reason that just took off. So, just find something that works for you and go with it. So.
Thank you, Alyssa. This year we brought on 2 new folks to our leadership team for the marathon, and it's the names have been mentioned a number of times this evening, but Chris, Audrey, who've been working together in Pittsburgh for a number of years, and they have a lot of experience with running and marathons. Chris brings more of the running and the training aspect of it, and his expertise there as he's managed gyms throughout the city of Pittsburgh, and that's how Pastor Ed and Chris met sometime over the last years. And then Audrey, who has been with Chris in various nonprofits here in Pittsburgh, who kind of brings the fundraising side of things. So I'll ask both of you, or however it was decided, that you guys would approach and just come up and share with us, take any questions, whatever. Again, this is a smaller group, and we can ask questions and just get an idea of what you're thinking. And then as the group grows, obviously we will introduce Chris and Audrey to a bigger group and do that outside of this meeting. But just want to give you guys an opportunity.
Well, I think Audrey should come up.
Oh, yeah.
We'll do it together. We'll take team.
No.
Since we've been,
Those eyes.
So it's funny because my wife she would be like, uh-oh, Chris is behind a podium in a church. The Rev is ready to give the gospel. But there's a couple of things. It's like Ed, I traded advice with him. He gave me spiritual advice. In return, I gave him fitness advice. So we had a great symbiotic relationship. And I, without a doubt, trust this man for wherever he leads. And I knew that there was a calling for me to come. And there was yesterday we did a reading from Matthew, and part of that, later part I was talking to Ed about, there's another part of that Matthew reading where it talked about the master of the land was gone away, so he gave 10 silver pieces to one of his servants, and 5, and then 1. And he gave them according to their abilities. And then when he came back, he wanted to see what they were able to produce. And the whole system, the whole narrative of this whole that parable was that God gives us individual talents, and we have to multiply those talents to make them worthwhile, to make your life worthwhile, and to help others. God gave me a tremendous ability, and that was running. And it created a life for me, a career. It introduced me to my wife. I got 3 sons. So there's a lot to be expected. If you have something to offer, then you are called to do that. And I know that everyone here has you're the ones who've been given the 10 pieces of silver. And it's up to you now to reproduce those and really to do it in God's name. And I know Audrey's one of the busiest persons I know. I used to say that it was my wife until I met Audrey. And so just the fact that Audrey is here tells you a lot about her commitment. And I wanted to make sure that when I asked her if she would consider it, I said, all you have to do is just go to their website and then maybe, and I sent her one of his gospels that and I can let Audrey talk about that, but I knew that she would feel that connection. And I have that connection also with Ed, and I know that there's something special. And I do believe when you were talking about networking, you know, and I've been gifted with people that I've been able to impact, and Audrey's been able to impact. We have Ed and Kevin, two previous participants with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Both had family history with that, but they're here. They're here getting information about raising money for another organization.
Wow.
And I think that that's a testimony. You know, the people that work with Abdullah and Frank, you know, and Kim, I do think that they understand that there's a calling here to do something worthwhile, and I appreciate the words that you gave to us. It's really powerful. So I just wanted to get that out of the way for us.
Now, who's Ed?
I am.
You're Ed.
Well, I used to be called Dan. But
What did I say?
I'm going to have to change my license.
That's right. Okay, Dan.
I'm sorry, it must have been the beer.
No. Yeah. But I was going to say 2 Eds are better
I'm
than
sorry.
one.
I was just, you know, anyway.
First time behind the pulpit. Right?
Yeah.
So you want to come up and say?
Okay.
But Audrey and I have been together now since 2006. You can tell her story. And she also has a great story about the story you told us about your aunt. I think that's a tremendous story.
Oh, for the fundraising. So I was not a runner. I was not a long-time runner. I never exercised until I was 40 years old. And
Which was about a year ago.
yes. And at that time, I had started to work with a trainer at the gym, and for some reason, we went to a track one day to warm up, and I took one warm-up lap around that track, and she said, and I came back hyperventilating, could hardly breathe. I said, so how long did it take to do that mile? She says, a mile? You have to go around there 4 times for a mile. That's how ignorant I was when I started to run. I didn't know anything about it. And after 3 weeks, I was able to run 2 miles without stopping, and she thought it was at a good pace. I don't know what that meant, but okay. And just when I got up to 3 miles, the very next day, my best friend calls from Children's Hospital. Her little boy, my grandson, or my godson, he is in the hospital diagnosed with leukemia. And her husband's out of the country, and she's so upset, and could I spend the day with her? So I went there that day, and I came home that evening, and I'm going to the mailbox, flipping through the mail, and here is a card. Join the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, team in training, raise money for leukemia, and run a marathon. Well, why would I get that? There's no reason for me to, I've never been a runner. I am a very spiritual person. I believe in faith, and God puts things in your place, and you choose to accept or go around them. And this was profound enough that I would want to accept that challenge. And literally 2 days later, there's Chris Gibson in a Panera's at the information meeting saying, you can run a marathon, I can get anybody to do that. I didn't even know a marathon was 26.2 miles. So you just have to accept some paths that you have no idea where it's going to lead you. And So that was over 100 marathons or ultra marathons ago. 9 Boston marathons, and that's the only way I know how to run, is to run for a reason, to be raising money for someone else.
Audrey has a lot of experience. I have a lot of experience in raising money. We've been doing it. I was the coach for 17 years for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and then I coached the year at CF, and then Audrey took over. So I've been doing this for a long time. So that is something that we can bring to you. It's not intimidating. Why don't you tell that one story? Remember you told me about your aunt?
So I was intimidated by the first marathon. You had to raise this money, and I was just going to pay it myself, actually. Honestly, I was so intimidated about asking people for money. And I felt like they were giving it to me. I had to get over that they're not giving it to me, they're giving it to what I support, and I'm the conduit for that. But still, I was picking and choosing who I was going to ask. And I had to ask friends, family, neighbors, work colleagues, everywhere. And it was the week before I was going to the marathon. I happened to be with my family, and a great aunt was there. She's like the family matriarch here. 90 years old, real frail little lady, and I knew that she was on Social Security and lived in the same little house forever because she couldn't really afford to go anywhere else. I was not going to ask her for money. But that day, she came over to me and she had this money balled up in her hand, and she came over and she handed it to me and she says, "That's for your marathon. Well, you should have asked me. I wanted to help you." Just ask people. Let them decide if they're going to give or not. Don't make the decision for them. They're saying no, okay, they have their reasons that they can't, that's fine. But it's worse not to ask, and then to lose the money for the organization, and to make that person feel bad because they weren't part of something that was great. So that would be something that I definitely learned that lesson.
And that's been my experience too. I know if you talk to some of these other
I'm from a large family, and the same thing. I had some brothers that weren't doing too well, and I was not going to ask them. But we at a family gathering, the others are talking about it, and the one brother said, "Why didn't you ask me?" And I said, "Well, they weren't put you on the spot." He gave more than, the ones that really seemed like they had the money gave a tiny little bit, and he just piled on. It was just amazing.
What I was, I'm sorry, we done.
I was just going to say, you're giving them an opportunity to give. You're presenting them with that.
What I would suggest is you make a circle, and inside that circle you put all your close friends and families. Then you expand it out. On the outer edges, put up those people that are in contact with you, but superficially, but they mean something to you. You know those. The people that you don't, maybe you reach out to them once a year, once every 6 months. They're just not in the same place as you are at. Those are the ones who are going to surprise you. You may be a little bit disappointed with it inside. It's the ones on that peripheral part of that relationship circle that you have. They're the ones, because they won't give up on you. That's the reason why they're your friends, even though you don't interact with them for 6 months, for a year, because there's a connection with you and them. And they want to do that and reach out to you and help you. So don't forget that. So what I'm going to suggest is do you have my contact information?
No, we'll get all that.
What I'm looking for is maybe, once we get a full recruitment, so we really are asking everybody is to go out, the people that see this and they're here, is to bring somebody else into this program. Just have that, and then ask them to bring somebody into the program. And then so we can get those numbers up, so we can really make a tremendous impact. Because I know I've been here, I've run the Pittsburgh Marathon, Audrey and I have done it for, 20 years, probably. Well, not 15 for her. But coming through here is seeing Ed's group is just really motivated, and they are. They're out there helping, supporting, and I think we can help make a difference.
Yeah, we want to build this team and awareness for the Urban Impact Mission, and we need more people to do that. Sure, it is about the money, but this first year, it's going to be about building a team so that we can really start to build it. Just focusing totally on fundraising isn't going to do it this year with a smaller group. We have to branch out. We need every person, at least one person, for every participant in this group.
Is it possible to get a blurb from you guys, nothing huge, but like a meaty paragraph of just the impact, where it's going, what is, you know what I mean? And that way, I mean, we can always, I mean, we have the connections and we can bring other people in and we can address friends and other runner friends that we have, but if we have that little bit of information that you guys know a lot better than us, I think it would really help.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that.
Okay.
I just asked, make sure you sign the sheet and put your email down so we know how to get in touch with you.
Perfect.
And I found the website to be very helpful last year because it showed all those numbers that you were saying, how many people were reached, how many, the graduation percentage for the kids. So I think that that's somewhere to go to, just sharing links whenever you're sharing anything on social media or by email or anything like that. That was really helpful for me to help people explain why I was picking this thing nobody's heard of in Plum, you know, out in the suburbs.
And don't forget that another part of it is where you work. If you can maybe generate a relay team or the company, with whether or not they would want to support that aspect. And I would like to see also if we can help maybe get some of the kids that you're involved with, get them involved in running.
Yeah.
Because I think that's because I think running it allows you to create, you can create a life with that that's going to help in everything else that you do in life. It's a compliment.
And we have quite a few missionaries that will run with you. They run the marathon as well. So it's bringing our missionaries around you as well, and some kids that will join them. And we do have a lot of companies that do support us. And I think that's a great idea, like to try to go to any of the companies that you might know or friends that are part of those companies, especially in the city. There is an affinity that they have with us about trying to impact, kids in the city. So it is a positive thing. At least I have found that to be true.
And I know this past year they did a virtual. So what it means is you just do it you raise the money and you do it. If that happens this year, which there's a possibility, then I would still like to try to organize an event that people don't have to do it by themselves.
Right.
That we can still do it. I just did a half marathon last weekend. I mean, so there is a way you can still do it. The problem with the Pittsburgh Marathon is it's too big. So we could easily do it safely and, it would be low key, but we could definitely find it so we, just do it we can do it on the North Shore path and not hit any traffic. We could do, So this is something that we will consider. Because I want people to have that opportunity to be able to enjoy and experience, all the hard work that they put into it.
Chris, do you anticipate virtual training or actual training?
No, we're hoping that we can, get together and do runs together. That's part of the thing that we've done,
Yeah.
so that we do group runs, and that will be something we'll try to organize at least maybe every other week. We'll just maybe meet here and we just go down and run on the trail on the North Shore. So that way everybody, hopefully if you have a large enough group, there'll be people that you're going to be able to run with. And that's something that I would do as a coach, is when I do my, I'll run with people and just, be able to give them some advice and.
That's good to hear, because with leukemia lymphoma, the biggest thing was the training runs, and you got to interact and get to know so many other people.
Yeah.
And some, maybe him too, becomes lifelong friendships.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, how long, when did you guys first start with?
When did I start?
When did you start with us?
Dan did his first marathon.
97.
With you?
We both did it together.
97.
2006. Yeah. So
I was 97.
So the point is, if you get involved in this, you're gonna have friends for the rest of your life, whether you like it or not.
Well said.
Hey, I'm sorry, I have to go. I have a 103-year-old aunt that I gotta go to right now.
Ask for a donation?
Yeah, and that's. Yes. But I wanted to come and be here because this means a lot to kids and families, but especially to us. I mean, you know, when you're doing it every day, it's just great to have people here it's encouragement. I mean, that you guys give a hoot and you're willing to do something for somebody that you don't even know yet. And I so greatly appreciate it. I really mean that.
Well, there's two things. Friends or just strangers you haven't met. Okay? Or strangers or friends you haven't met.
Yeah.
And number two, maybe we'll get you to train for the 5K. Okay?
That might happen.
That might happen. All
Thanks,
right.
guys. Thanks, everybody.
Anybody have any questions?
Just for anyone that doesn't know, Chris and Audrey, I'll speak for Dan because I do that a lot anyway. From both of us who have known and trained with them for years, it can be, especially if this is a first time event, if you haven't done big events or anything, it can be intimidating. They're both very humble, but it can be intimidating when you hear Chris has done this many marathons, how many Audrey's done, you go, oh my gosh. Trust me, that very humble, and they bring everything to your level, wherever that level may be. And Dan and I both know that over the years I've been out on the course in many marathons, half marathons, whatever, run into an issue. One of them are there to help out, give advice, whatever, and they will do everything, like they said, to make you succeed. So.
A marathon's 26.2, but what's the average mileage you do when you're running with a team on a marathon?
Well, Audrey and I, we typically do 35 to 40 miles during the course. But that was a couple of years back when I was younger. before I was Medicare age.
Yeah, but now you're
Now you're not.
So anyway, yeah.
Yeah, so Chris and Audrey will be available. It's a resource. We're not going to force anybody to, okay, now that you registered, you have to go spend time with Chris. That won't be, but we will highly encourage everybody to be involved to whatever level they want to with Chris and Audrey through, you know, as we build the team. And I think if you leave from here with nothing else, just know we got to find another person. Right? And somebody that, if you register, get somebody else to register with you, and they can, you know, we can multiply this thing pretty quickly. And I think we will see a lot of these 70 folks that were here earlier this year back. But again, as Chris mentioned when he came in, I think a lot of folks, or maybe it was Audrey that mentioned a lot of folks that she talked to are just going to wait it out a little bit longer. Maybe after the first of the year, we'll see where we're at. And see what Pittsburgh's thinking, if we can figure that out. But we will, as I mentioned earlier, we will keep moving forward as if everything's going to happen, and we'll adjust accordingly if we have to. Did I miss anything? Paulson's right there. But Peter, anything?
Just if you didn't, just please sign the sheet on your way out. That's our way to communicate with you. And just want to thank, one thing, just to try to encourage everybody to, I don't mean to have my back to you, I'm sorry, to bring somebody else along. We are going to have, did you bring one, Paulson? All right, we have some nice Urban Impact beanie caps. So if you do recruit someone else to register, you can get one of those for free. That'll be our first incentive. There'll be other ones.
That begins our awareness.
Yeah, it's a bright yellow cap, really cool, and we're going to have a nice Urban Impact embroidered logo right on the center.
And Chris will get the first one.
Yeah, because he brought
I should get two.
So any questions about anything? I know that it was a bigger picture night as opposed to the details, but any details we can help with tonight, or we can follow up.
My main question is when you guys would start when you first get everybody together and say, hey, this is the plan.
Well, I'm not quite sure if we really haven't discussed it, but we would like to see if somehow we could do a kickoff meeting where we would come together, people that have signed up, and then have a organized area where, Frank is somebody who is one of the best trainers I've ever met in my 40 years of fitness. And he has a really good knowledge of sports kinesiology, biomechanics, and I think that he's going to be a tremendous resource for us also to help us to maybe maintain, how to minimize. There's something that's called, we call rehab. It's after you get injured, then you do rehab. Well, now there's something called prehab, which is preventive. You're trying to prevent yourself from ever having to get to that point. And so Frank will be a tremendous resource that he could bring to the table with us.
So going back to your question, Frank, because of we will probably wait till after the first of the year, because of the time of the year, but also our schedule here. As much as I'm spending 2 days in a learning lab with my 4 little girls. We are in the middle. We're creating this big show that usually is an hour and a half. 2 weeks before Christmas, that now we are taking all these kids that have to do it virtually, and we're spending, at least as my department where I'm in the performing arts, we're spending the next 2 weeks every day, 10 hours a day, filming and doing the audio for this thing that will be shown on December 18th on some platform. I can't remember what it is, but we'll get the word out. Yeah. So and that's just our department. So I don't see that being able to happen before the first, but we will bring folks together because we do want them to sit down with Chris. Those that are really interested, sit down with Chris. If you can see me after the meeting, my back is killing me, and it really is. But be able to, we've talked about trying to bring some other folks around to have some expertise, even a shoe guy or gal, for that matter. And this is going places we've never gone before. So we're trying to figure it out as we go. We're listening to Chris, we're listening to Audrey, others.
But we would I would like to get a program written up for people, like a basic running program that could include walking, and then maybe a more advanced for people that have done it, or maybe somebody who's looking more toward a specific goal other than just to finish. So I would like to get started sometime in December with that. So we have another month or so to get, for people to get going. And then, so I'd like to find out what people's levels are and what they're interested in and what they're hoping to accomplish, because we're looking at half marathon and we're looking at a 5K and a marathon. So there's a lot of different things that are going to go into that.
And we will follow up as a committee too, or as a group, and with all of you that were here tonight. But then we have folks that couldn't come tonight, and we do have 12 runners that are registered already, that registered 2 months ago when we first put out this little thing on Facebook.
How many people here haven't registered or thinking about registering?
Jessica is on that list.
Okay, who's here that has not registered, is thinking about registering?
Okay.
So we got another. So
Yeah.
you got 20 people right now.
Yeah, so it's get that base, and we continue to, we have our staff, Pastor Ed said, not all 35, I'm not gonna run, sorry, Chris, but there's 35, I might walk.
Can I say something?
Oh, no, please do.
When I came in the room, until I heard all the positive things that a lot of you guys said, I really wasn't interested in doing this for fundraising. My interest was to join Chris and work with people that needed to do like corrective exercise and help in that way. But you guys inspired me to get involved with so I don't know what I want to do. I've done a lot of different races, but I've never done a road marathon before. So I don't know, maybe that's something that I should do. So that's something that I'll talk to Chris about.
Yeah, no, great. Well,
But to my point is that if I'm going to do that, maybe you should consider doing
if you'll work on my back.
Honestly, you could easily form a relay team, and you guys would have a blast together doing it.
Well, like I said,
the pet walk.
like I said, walk is just
I know, I know. There was a few of us here before everybody else
Just
came.
think about how much better your back might
Oh,
feel,
man,
too.
you have no idea. Yeah, well, you would have an idea, yeah. So, in the 90s, when the marathon was, what, 2,500 people or whatever, I'd come down to where Gus and Yaya's is. I don't know if you guys might recognize that. Right here on the other side of the circle, where the marathon, it would be mile 6, I think. I'd come down with the Post Gazette in my hand, and I'd sit on the bench, and I'd wait for the first 3 or 4 runners to run by, and I'd start reading the newspaper. By the time I was done with the Post Gazette, the trucks were cleaning the streets. I mean, it was like they were there and gone, and I think all they did was either a half and a full. I don't think there was anything else.